Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. Early this morning, East Coast time, we found out that Prince Harry and former MP Tom Watson have settled with NGN, which is News Group Newspapers, the British publishing arm of Murdoch's empire. In a pretty stunning move, Murdoch's UK tabloids apologize to Prince Harry and admit intruding on the late Princess Diana. This is some of NGN's apology to the claimants. Some of the highlights from NGN's apology is to the Duke of Sussex for the serious intrusion by The Sun between 1996 and 2011 into his private life, including incidents of unlawful activities carried out by private investigators working for The Sun. Interestingly, they also offer that apology on behalf of the now shuttered News of the World. And that was for, quote, phone hacking, surveillance, and misuse of private information by journalists and private investigators instructed by them at the News of the World. Note, in the apology from The Sun, it's just about unlawful activities by private investigators, not journalists. It doesn't implicate in that way. But the News of the World apology, which is now closed, this was the paper that saw editors like Rebecca Brooks and Andy Coulson face trial. Now, Andy ended up serving a short sentence. That's one of the reasons that the apology on behalf of News of the World is a little more fleshed out. Here's the thing about The Sun, the other entity that's still going. It's not over for them. These are a series of tweets from former MP Tom Watson, who was also the final claimant left standing along with Prince Harry. To the Prime Minister, I know you care deeply about fairness and the law, but are we really willing to continue as a country where some corporate executives are above the law and out of reach of our police? He went on to say to Sir Mark Rowley, when you receive our dossier exposing wrongdoing, will the Metropolitan Police act? Because this was a civil case. And what the apology also calls into question is the excuse given to the Met Police for why millions of emails were deleted during the phone hacking scandal when they were told to preserve all evidence. Which brings us back to Will Lewis. Will Lewis was referred to by The Guardian as a cleanup campaigner who was hired to, quote, root out newsroom corruption as a top Murdoch executive. What he's been accused of, though, is leading a massive cover-up of criminal activity when he was acting outside of public view, and that include the alleged deletion of millions of emails. Furthermore, a few months ago in high court, this was during a preliminary high court hearing over claims brought by Watson, and one of the things brought up in court was, quote, Lord Watson was also falsely cited by senior NGN executives such as Rebecca Brooks and Will Lewis as part of the fake security threat used to justify the wiping of the crucial backup tapes of NGN's email system that led to the deletion of millions of incriminating emails, as the claimants allege. Essentially, they've been accused of a trumped-up security threat to justify doing what the Metropolitan Police told them not to do. Don't know what Harry received as a payout, but Chris Shipp reports that it is an 8-figure sum. Think about that in terms of the fact that the Mirror Group, where Prince Harry did successfully take them to trial, they were found liable of unlawful activities in several of his claims. That was a 6-figure sum, and low 6 figures. That was awarded by a judge. Historically, settlements in the UK are much lower than what you would anticipate in the US. In contrast, Murdoch's Fox News in America settled before they went to court a few years ago to the tune of a 9-figure settlement. Here's the thing, because of English law, Part 36, if there are attempts to settle before going to court and you take it to court, you go all the way and you win, you can win. If the monetary damages that the judge decides are less than what was offered, you are now on the hook for paying not only your legal fees, but also the other side's. Can't even imagine what the legal fees are right now for both parties. A statement on behalf of Prince Harry and former MP Tom Watson was made by David Sherborne. I'm going to highlight this part. Quote, "The truth that has now been exposed is that NGN unlawfully engaged more than 100 private investigators over at least 16 years on more than 35,000 occasions. This happened as much at The Sun as it did at News of the World, with the knowledge of all the editors and executives going to the very top of the company." Remember, during the phone hacking scandal, News of the World closed in order to save The Sun. The idea and what was put forth by NGN was always that this was an isolated issue related to News of the World. But now we know that, in fact, they lied, because this was also going on at The Sun, which they have admitted now in a public apology to Prince Harry and former MP Tom Watson. Not only that, executives and higher-ups knew about it. They had to have known about it. In Justice Fancourt's decision in favor of Prince Harry in his case against the Mirror, he pointed out that how could editors at the time, including people like Piers Morgan, how could they not know what was going on? The statement also accuses them of lying in court and lying during the Levinson inquiry, which was supposed to have a part 2, which would have looked at police involvement with media. The statement also makes the point that far from being a relic of a distant past, many of those behind these unlawful practices are in high positions now, both in UK media and around the world. Quote, "Wielding editorial power and perpetuating the toxic culture in which they continue to thrive." The statement calls for the rule of law to now run its course. And it calls on the police and parliament to investigate not only the unlawful activity now finally admitted, but the perjury and cover-ups along the way. The statement ends with kind of a, we've done our part, now it's time for the law to do its part. I'm going to be getting into all of this more in part 2, including what justice and accountability looks like. Stay tuned.